ship leaves port under clear skies. The crew is healthy, the equipment is functional, the weather forecast is flawless, radio messages are calm, logs show nothing unusual. And then, somewhere in the open sea, it simply vanishes. No SOS, no debris, no oil slick, no lifeboats, no bodies, just silence. For weeks, search teams sweep the ocean. Planes scan thousands of miles. Sonar maps the seafloor. But they find nothing, not even a single broken plank. It's as if the ship was swallowed by the sea in one breath, leaving behind a mystery. So perfect, so maddening, that even experts refuse to talk about it in public. This is the chilling story of the Elysian Star, the cargo vessel that disappeared, without a trace, and the truth behind the ship that the ocean refuses to give back. The departure of the Elysian Star departed from Port Haven on August 14, 1996. It wasn't an old rusted vessel, it wasn't understaffed, and it wasn't carrying anything dangerous. In fact, it was one of the most reliable ships on the eastern routes. Known for its spotless safety record, Captain Rowan Hale had spent 22 years at sea and was regarded as one of the calmest, most competent sailors in the region. His crew trusted him the way soldiers trust their commanding officer. Before leaving the port, the crew joked with dock workers. They stocked up on fresh supplies, checked the engines twice, and even performed a full radio test. Every protocol was followed. Their destination was simple: transport machinery parts to a receiving port 1,400 miles away. A routine job. At 9:17 a.m., the ship's horn echoed across the harbor as it glided into open waters. Witnesses later said everything looked normal, almost too normal. Calm waters, clear horizon, a ship sailing confidently toward its destination. No one knew it was the last time anyone on land would ever see the Elysian Star. The last radio call of the ship's first mate, Daniel Cross, made the final radio transmission at 6:43 p.m. His voice was steady. His words were casual. "Sea's good, making strong time. All's well." That was it. Not exactly dramatic, not unusual, just a routine check-in. Investigators later replayed that message dozens of times, listening for tension, fear, static, anything, but there was nothing. Daniel sounded like a man reading from a weather report. Hours later, when the receiving port attempted to contact the Elysian Star, there was no response. They tried again and again. Silence. At first, they assumed a communication outage. It happens. Maybe the radio malfunctioned. Maybe they were in a dead zone. But by the next morning, something felt wrong. The ship was simply gone from radar. No warning, no nearby storms, no technical alerts, no mayday. Just a blank space where the Elysian Star should have been. The search that found nothing. When a ship goes missing, there are always clues. A drifting life jacket, a broken piece of hull, floating cargo, a signal from an emergency beacon. But when the Coast Guard launched their full search, they found something that chilled them. The ocean was empty. Completely empty. Not a single scrap of debris. Somehow, an entire 300-foot vessel had disappeared so cleanly that even search professionals refused to believe it at first. Planes flew repeated sweeps for 9 days. Helicopters scoured the waves. Ships formed grids across thousands of miles. Yet there was nothing, not even the faint smell of fuel. Experts were baffled. They insisted that for a ship of that size to vanish, there had to be a violent storm, a violent explosion, a collision, an engine failure, a distress called a debris field. But the Elysian Star broke every rule. There was no storm, no fire, no signal, no evidence. The ocean kept its secret. The logbook theory: when investigators obtained the ship's digital copies of recent logs backed up automatically at port, they noticed something strange. The final entry before departure was normal. Inventory lists, coordinates, standard procedural notes. But the entry before that one made 2 nights earlier stood out. It was written by Captain Hale personally. It only said, "Unexpected lights observed over water, moving erratically, assume fishing vessels." What caught investigators' attention wasn't the mention of lights. It was how Captain Hale wrote his words. Short, uncertain, unlike his usual confidence. And more importantly, there were no fishing vessels in that area that night. So what did he see? Some said it was a sign of approaching bad weather. Others said it was an illusion caused by fatigue. But a few crew families insisted the captain didn't scare easily, and he would never make an entry without purpose. That was the first hint that the Elysian Star's final journey may not have been ordinary. The isolated signal 12 days after the disappearance. Something even more baffling occurred. At 3:11 a.m., an automated distress ping was detected on an emergency frequency linked directly to the Elysian Star. It lasted only 7 seconds. just long enough for operators to lock onto it. The coordinates it sent were impossible, because according to tracking maps, the signal originated from an empty patch of ocean 400 miles away from the ship's last known location. A place the ship could not have reached in time. A place with no recorded wreckage. A place where the water is nearly 4 miles deep. When rescue teams rushed to the location the next day, they found exactly what they feared: silence, emptiness, nothing. Experts called the signal a malfunction. Families called it a sign. But everyone agreed on one thing: it made no sense. Emergency beacons don't turn on 12 days after a disaster, and they don't travel hundreds of miles through the open sea without help. Something triggered it, and something moved it, but no one can explain what. The last known photograph a year later, during a routine coastal survey, researcher found something unexpected inside a damaged underwater camera recovered near a reef, hundreds of miles from both the port and the search grid. Most of the camera's memory was corrupted saltwater damage, but one photo survived, a photograph taken during what appeared to be a normal day on the Elysian Star. It showed the deck, a crew member leaning on the railing, waves in the background. But behind the man, in the distance, something was visible. A shape, dark, massive, partially submerged, too large to be a boat, too structured to be a natural formation, and yet its outline was curved in a way nothing human-made should be. Experts debated for months. Some claimed it was a wave illusion. Some said the angle was misinterpreted. Some insisted the shape wasn't there at all. But the families of the crew, they believed the photo showed what the captain had written about: the lights over the water, the strange shapes, the thing that shouldn't have been there, the thing that maybe followed them. The theory of the deep: every ocean has its legends, but the region where the Elysian Star vanished has a reputation even sailors refuse to joke about. It sits above one of the deepest trenches in the hemisphere, an abyss thousands of feet deeper than the Titanic's resting place. Divers rarely explore it. Submarines avoid it. Sonar behaves strangely near it, echoing false shapes and distorted returns. Locals call it the mouth. The trench is so deep that a ship could fall into it and never be detected again, not on radar, not on sonar, not on camera. But this explanation doesn't solve the biggest question. Why didn't the crew send an SOS? Even a sudden sinking leaves seconds, sometimes minutes, for communication. But the Elysian Star gave nothing. No panic, no warning, not even a whisper. Some researchers argued that the ship must have capsized instantly, pulled down so rapidly that the crew had no time to react. But that theory collapses under one fact: instant disasters leave debris. Always. Yet the ocean gave nothing back, as if whatever happened didn't break the ship. It erased it. The survivor who wasn't supposed to be there. The most shocking twist came 2 years later. A man was found drifting on a small raft near a fishing coast, sunburned, dehydrated, and barely conscious. When rescuers pulled him aboard, he claimed something impossible. He said he had been a deckhand on the Elysian Star, but his name was not on the crew list. No families recognized him. No documentation proved he had ever worked on the ship. Investigators dismissed him as delusional, but his story was haunting. He insisted the crew saw something in the water the night they vanished. Not a creature, not a storm. Something he described as a shadow that rose higher than the ship. He claimed the ocean went silent. The engines stopped. Their instruments malfunctioned. And then, according to him, the sea opened. He blacked out and later woke up alone on a makeshift raft made from floating debris that no search team ever found. Days later, the man disappeared from the recovery center without a trace, leaving behind only one chilling sentence scribbled on a piece of paper: "It doesn't stay in the deep." To this day, no one knows who he was, or how he survived when no one else did. The modern sighting in 2022. A cargo pilot flying over the open sea contacted air traffic control with a voice shaking enough to freeze everyone listening. He reported seeing what looked like a large metallic structure, partially submerged, a shadow the size of a football field under the surface, a shape moving against the current. The coordinates he provided were only 60 miles from the last known location of the Elysian Star. When a reconnaissance crew flew over the spot hours later, they saw nothing. But the pilot never took back what he saw. He believed the Elysian Star didn't sink. He believed it was taken. He believed whatever took it was still out there. The unanswered questions decades later. The disappearance of the Elysian Star remains one of the most baffling maritime mysteries ever recorded. There is no evidence of foul play, no sign of mechanical failure, no natural disaster, no survivor testimony that experts believe, no debris, no wreck. Just a ship that sailed into the horizon and never returned. Its unanswered questions keep investigators awake at night. Why no distress call? Why no floating wreckage? Why did the emergency signal activate 12 days later? What was the object seen in the final surviving photo? How did the survivor appear thousands of miles away? And why have so many sightings occurred near the trench where sonar failed? Some believe the ship encountered a rare rogue wave. Some believe it was crushed instantly in a deep-sea collapse. Some whisper about government experiments. Others whisper about something older, something deeper, something that rises only when it wants to feed. But in the end, we're left with the most terrifying truth of all: a ship can vanish without a trace, and the ocean will never explain why. The sea is a graveyard of secrets. Some lie, buried forever beneath crushing pressure. Some drift in the currents, waiting to be discovered. And some, like the Elysian star, disappear so perfectly that they haunt every sailor who hears their story. Because if an entire ship can vanish without a single piece left behind, what else can the ocean take? And more importantly, who will be next?